For the United States at this point in its history to attack literally every government in the world, every economy in the world, by suddenly announcing, not by discussions, not by meetings, not by conferences, that their problems and American problems might both be better solved if they rethought their relationship. No. Instead, you are going to be taxed. A tariff is the name of a tax. You are going to have every one of your products, goods and services shipped to the United States be suddenly confronted by having to charge a higher price in the United States because whoever buys the goods has to pay a tax to Uncle Sam called a tariff. You cannot do this in the United States if you're honest, especially if you're a Republican, because if the Republican Party stands for anything in America, it stands for no taxes, lower taxes, fewer taxes, and Mr. Trump is raising taxes on Americans when he imposes a tariff. So you cannot be honest. You cannot say anything about it that's true. You have to make make-believe. And one example, very quick, is the make-believe that by a tariff, you're going to change the location decision of significant numbers of businesses. That's not going to happen. And for reasons that every business school that I know of, and I've taught in several of them, would teach the students. You don't know whether a tariff is going to be long-lasting or short-lasting. Mr. Trump has made it underscoringly clear that whatever a tariff is, you don't know if it's going to be there next week, let alone next year. What company is going to spend a fortune of money moving production, rechanging supply chains, and all of the rest of it on something as flimsy as one temporary government's decision, maybe to have the tariffs change, maybe not, maybe more, maybe less. Not going to happen. And he has to tell that to the people, but he doesn't, because in America, it's about what you advertise your product does, not what it actually is. I'm struck that the United States is now doing things which for me seem to be self-destructive on a scale that I find extreme. Here's an example. The best and the cheapest electric vehicles in the world right now are made in China. And there's a company there called the BYD Corporation, which makes them. A couple of weeks ago, I was in Paris, France, and they were all over the streets. They're everywhere, but nowhere here. Why? The current tariff on BYD cars is 100%. Trump in his first presidency put on 27%, and then Biden raised it to 100%. So this is a bipartisan effort to keep BYD out of the hands of Americans, American consumers and American businesses. This is a crazy step. What are you doing? Let me explain. Every foreign competitor of every American company, a Nigerian firm, a French firm, an Italian firm, a Japanese firm, if it buys electric cars and trucks, will be and has already been buying BYD because it's the cheapest and it's the best. But their American competitor cannot do that. A $30,000 electric vehicle from China will cost you $60,000 here in the United States because of the 100% tariff on top of it. So you're not going to buy that. You're going to buy a $40,000 or $50,000 electric vehicle from GM or Ford or Toyota or Tesla. You understand the logic here. So an American company is going to be at a competitive disadvantage being here. Why would a company located abroad that Mr. Trump says, come to America, you get to pay more for crappier inputs? That's not a good selling point. That will sell exactly nobody, and it will offset any other incentive you might have created. Why are you doing this? Well, for Mr. Trump and Mr. Biden, they were being tough against the Chinese. There's that delusion that you're still the empire. You're not being tough against the Chinese. If I were a Chinese politician, I'd be laughing. You are hurting yourself. You're helping us. We can sell BYD all over the world, and we will now have an extra selling point. You buy this car, you outcompete your American competitor because he can't get it. I mean, this is so dumb, and I don't think Mr. Trump is dumb, and I don't think the people around him are dumb. So when perfectly reasonable, smart people, many of whom had the same education I did, are doing these things, then you know there's something much more serious going on. We are watching the United States under the leadership that making miscalculations one after the other. Let me give you a second example and I'll stop. The head of China, Xi Jinping, announced that the 53 countries in Africa will henceforth be able to export anything and everything to China, zero tariff. This happens in the same week that the United States reminds everyone that we have put 30, 40, and 50% tariffs against a whole host of African countries. This is grotesque. I did a little research and I discovered that China has been doing more business with Africa than the United States for the last 15 years. Isn't this something that needs a different approach than what we are doing? We are taking an entire continent and helping it move in a direction we say, politically and ideologically, we are opposed to or different from. This is a sign that we are in an economic and political system that is in very bad shape. All the major politicians of Europe over the last 75 years have made their careers by being pro-American. If you were understood not to be pro-American as the next one, your career suffered. Mr. Starmer in England, Mr. Macron in France, Mr. Merz in Germany, and you could go on. The Europeans are the clown. They're running off the end of the cliff. They're looking down. Mr. Trump has gone somewhere else, and they're left to fight a war they cannot win and impose on their people a level of denial of social programs, which Europeans, having enjoyed much better ones than we have here for decades, are not about to give up. You're looking at the United States with a shrinking number of allies as its adversary grows. And here's a statistic that ought to be inscribed in every economics curriculum. If you add up the GDP of the group of seven, the United States, Japan, Canada, Britain, France, Italy, and Germany, it comes to about 28-29% of total global output. If you do the same calculation, you add up the GDP of China and its BRICS allies, it's 35% of world output. The dominant bloc in the world economy is not the West. It is not the United States. Every country in Asia, Africa, Latin America with a project they would like help on, or export markets they'd like to be expanded, etc., etc. They still send missions to London and to New York and all of that. But as soon as the mission is done there, they go to New Delhi or they go to China, they go to Sao Paulo, and they can get a better deal there, and they're making those deals. And the Americans keep thinking that's evil act. It's not evil action. It's the logic of an economic development that the United States either unwilling or unable to deal with. I think the potential of this country is enormous, has been, is still. But I am watching all of that eroding, disappearing. This spectacle of deporting large numbers of people who've been working here for years and paying their taxes, and what are we doing? The country became great because it could absorb immigrants. It could find ways to give them a decent home, a decent job, income, and then get their contribution to the production. When we deport, we show we're an economy that can't do that anymore. That's what we show. The rest is advertising, and that is not serious. I can assure you that if there's any conclusion I've spent a lifetime arriving at, I didn't start with this. It's the conclusion that the problems of the American economy are much deeper than what I was taught to look at. And it took me a long time to figure it out. And here's what I would say very simply. We have to deal with a question that we have been afraid to ask. We have a particular system, a way of organizing enterprise. Factory, office, store, doesn't matter. And that's with a relatively small number of people at the top, the owner, the inventor, the partners who started it, or if you're a corporation, the board of directors at the top. They make all the crucial economic decisions, what to produce, what technology to use, where to carry out the production, and what to do with the net revenue that this enterprise generates. The vast majority of the people at every workplace are employees, and they are systematically excluded from making those decisions. If the people making them are accountable, they're accountable to the shareholders, who are not the people working there. That's a completely different group. This dichotomy creates a level of tension and bitterness and a whole lot of other things. That set of problems is the root cause of the difficulties. And the way out is to have an honest discussion. Is this received traditional way of organizing an enterprise the best way? Something every enterprise has to demonstrate? Or might there be an argument for a democratization of the enterprise? We make the political authorities accountable to us, at least as voters, but we make the authorities in the business world unaccountable to those over whom their decisions exert enormous influence. Why are the employees not given the same democratic position in their enterprise that they get in the community where they reside, vis-a-vis the mayor or the senator or the president for that matter? I think we can be proud as Americans. We question our education system. We question our medical system. We question the institution of marriage. We're extraordinary in the questions we dare to ask. But when it comes to economics, we are not exemplary in what we dare to ask. We are like sheep with a taboo, and you never go there, and you simply assume that what we got is what is necessary and also the best thing since sliced bread.